What is up, guys? It's your friendly neighborhood web war fanatic, and we are back today with another LORCANA video. So set 5 is Shimmering Skies, and the 2-star decks here. All the cards in these 2-star decks have officially been reviewed. So today I am going to be taking a look at each and every single one of these cards and giving my thoughts about them, and just my first impressions about these cards. If you guys want to see the deck list here, I will post a link in the description of IGN.com that has all these cards in here. So basically, the 2-star decks are going to be the Emerald Steel with Scar and Kronk, and the Amethyst Ruby with Elsa and Wreck-It Ralph. So every single card that we see after here, if it's a Amethyst or Ruby card, it's going to be in the Elsa Wreck-It Ralph star deck, and if it's Emerald Steel, it's going to be in the Scar Kronk star deck. And I don't know if this was intentional, but Emerald Steel and Amethyst Ruby are actually the two most popular decks in the competitive meta for set 4. So I'm expecting these two decks here to be super duper powerful for set 5. So let's take a look at these star decks here with the first card. We have a 2-drop Inkable, Tafita Mutant Fudge. Sorry guys, I totally butchered that. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I don't know if this is from Wreck-It Ralph 1 or 2. I think I've seen the first one. I'm not sure about the second one. It's 2 attack, 2 life with 2 lore with no effect. I think that this is a good card actually because it's inkable. The stat line's not amazing, and then it has a 2 lore here, so you could just ink it or it can help you quest for a lot. I always like inkable cards because it just gives more versatility. The next card here is Wreck-It Ralph, 3-drop inkable, 1 attack, 4 life, so he has pretty good life for a 3-drop, but a little bit lower on the attack here. And then his Refreshing Break as his effect. Whenever you ready this character, gain 1 lore for each damage on him. So I can definitely see some very powerful combos if you can ready him a lot and you're getting automatic lore. That's always a strong strategy in LORCANA, to automatically gain lore without needing to quest. So that would be good with Wreck-It Ralph. And then you have 2 cost uninkable here, Turbo. 2 attack, 3 life with Rush. So Rush is always good because they can challenge on the turn that they're played, which helps give a lot of board control. And then Game Jump is the effect here. This character also counts as being named King Candy for the shift. So hopefully we'll see King Candy here, or the big King Candy for the shift here, the Floodborn version, because if we don't know what that card is, this effect may be good or may not be good depending on what that card is. So hopefully we can see that as well. 2-drop uninkable for Rush. I think that's pretty standard for a 2-drop. A pretty actually, this is a pretty good stat line actually. 2, 3 for 2 and Rush. I think it's actually really good. So I think that's why that it's uninkable. I think Ruby has more of the Rush characters, and we compare this to Queen of Hearts, which is 2, 2, 2, and she is inkable and she also has Rush. So I think this is a way better version of the Queen of Hearts, even though it is uninkable, because I think a lot of the times Rush, you need that early game for board control, and then having 3 life, in my experience, 3 life is huge, and one of the biggest differences is having 2 life to 3 life, right? Having the 3 willpower, I think it's really good. So I think this is a very strong card. Next we have a 4-drop inkable, 4/4 with 1 lore. Okay, so that's just super duper standard 4/4/4. Yeah, that's pretty normal here with the 1 lore. Rancis Flugger Butter. I don't know if I should be pronouncing these names. Pretty standard card. We don't have much to say about that. 3-drop uninkable here. Snow Anna Rambo. 2 attack, 4 willpower with Rush. Okay, so that's why it's uninkable, because it has Rush, which is a good effect. 2 for 4. For 3 life, I like the turbo a lot more here. I think 2, 3 with 2 cost is a lot better than the 2, 4 here. But yeah, still a solid card here. Having Rush, wow, there's a lot of Rush characters in this star deck, which is really good. I think the star deck's gonna be very powerful here with what we've seen so far. So next we have Daisy Duck, the Spotless Food Fighter, 2-drop inkable, 2/2 with evasive. Okay, yeah, I mean, 2/2 isn't the best for a 2-drop, but I mean, having evasive is gonna be the reason why she has not the best stats, and I think the evasive is definitely worth that. So just a solid card. We have a 4-drop inkable, Mickey Mouse Enthusiastic Dancer, 2 attack, 4 life. While you have a character named Minnie Mouse in play, he gets +2 attack, so he could be 4 for 4. That's kind of standard thing, except he has 2 lore, which is really good. So that's above average there for being a 4/4/4, but that's only if you have Minnie, right? So if you don't have Minnie, then it's 2/4. This card I don't like so much right now, just because it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Because you have 2 lore here, but then he gets extra attack if Minnie Mouse didn't play, right? If Minnie Mouse was in play, he gets like +1 lore, +2 lore. That would be really good. But you either want to be attacking or questing, and Mickey here kind of splits his attack and quest with his ability and the lore, right? So either you take advantage of his 4 attack by challenging, or you take advantage of the lore by questing, but you can't do both. And he has a good stats for both, which is a little bit kind of just distributing what we want in the wrong way. Next we have a 1-drop. Oh no, not the Tafita Moon Fudge again. For 1-2. Okay, so just kind of it's a pretty bad line for a 1-drop Inkable. So let's see what her effect is. When you play this character, you have a location in play. Each opponent loses 1 lore. Okay, so she's like with locations. That's gonna be synergy there. I think a lose the 1 lore is kind of like the Aladdin from set 1, the 3-drop with 2/2 stat line. So her stat line's not good, but I mean, if you have locations in play, it's not if you have each location, like it's just if you have locations at all in play, she'll make each opponent lose a lore. It's not terrible. Maybe she has some sort of shift or something, but I think that the way it is, it's decent. It's still not one of my favorite 1-cost 1-drop characters because I think I want more value out of my 1-drops than having bad stats and then this type of effect. Next we have a 4-drop Inkable. Oh no, not a Tafita Moon Fudge again. Okay, so this is a Floodborn here, so she can shift. So 4 for 3/3, a little bit of a lackluster stat line, but shift 2. Okay, that's actually really good because this is only 1 cost, right? So if you shift 2, you actually totally you're gonna pay 3 for the Tafita Moon Fudge, and you can actually play it on turn 2 because you're shifting 2. So actually, this really good combo. What's her effect? Once per turn, when this character moves to a location, gain 2 lore. Oh wow, okay. So the effect doesn't do anything immediately, but if you can get location play and move her to a location, then you can gain lore. I like gaining lore a lot more than making your opponent lose lore. And you can get it out on turn 2. Turn 3, if you can play a cheap location, you can move her immediately to it. And then you don't have to exert her, which is really powerful. So she needs to stay readied up, and you can have her move constant to gain lore. I think if you pay 4 for her, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than what we'd like for this type of effect. But Shift 2 is insane here, and with the 1-drop defeat, I think it's definitely worth it. So I think this is a really good card. Next we have a 3-drop Inkable Donald Duck 2/4. That's a okay stat line. I think that's pretty standard. A little bit, I would say it's a little bit under the curve. Whenever this character challenges another character, each opponent loses 1 lore. So when it challenges, you don't have to banish. That's not bad. I mean, just when it challenges, you can keep your opponent's lore down. So there's a lot of lore reduction stuff right now. Ruby already has some lore reduction, but now we're getting a lot more here in this set, which is really powerful, I think, if there's a lot of different sources for it. If it's just 1 card like we saw earlier with this Tafita, it may not be that good. Sorry, guys, I don't know how to say that, Tafita. But yeah, I mean, having multiple copies of it or multiple sources to reduce lore, I think if they all added up, that's going to be really good. 3-drop, yeah, but you have the challenge here. Okay. Next, we got 4-drop Uninkable, Vanellope von Schweetz. I think that's Sweets. I don't know. Okay, sorry guys. 3/3. I don't think I've seen. I feel like I have seen this movie, but I kind of don't remember anything because it's been a while. So 4-drop Uninkable for 3/3 with Rush. Okay, so not the best stat line, but Rush is always good. When you play this character, she gains evasive until the start of your next turn. Okay, so evasive. Okay, and she has 2 lore here. This is definitely a good card if you play her. I think it's a really good balance with this card, right? It has Rush, it has evasive on the first turn that it's played. 3/3 is not the best stat line, but 2 lore is really good. 4-drop is really cheap for having Rush and evasive and 3 attack, but it's uninkable. So I think that's a pretty balanced card here, but definitely solid. Definitely better, one of the better cards in the game, but I really like all the balance and all the stuff that's going on with this card. Oh, next we have a Simba here. Adventurous Successor. 1-drop Uninkable. 2 attack, 1 life. I am not a fan of the stat line here. I laugh in the face of danger. When you play this character, chosen character gets +2 attack this turn with 1 lore. So when you play him, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this. I don't like that he's uninkable. And then having only 1 life and 2 attack means that if you're facing another 1-drop inkable with the 1/3 stat line, it would take Simba out, and Simba can't take it out, right? Simba usually won't be able to give himself the +2 attack because he can't attack the turn he's played, right? Because he has to wait for his ink to dry. So we gave him another character. So it's a one-drop character that's better on for future turns. But then it's uninkable, so if you don't have the versatility to do stuff, you can't just ink it. Not my favorite card. Next we have Minnie Mouse. So this is supposed to supplement that Mickey Mouse that we saw earlier. It's a 3-drop inkable. Dazzling Dancer with 2/4, so same as the Mickey, but only one quest here, one lore. Whenever this character or one of your characters named Mickey Mouse challenges another character, you gain a lore. Okay, so the Mickey will get extra attack with the Minnie in play. If it challenges, you can get a lore, and then the Minnie will give you a lore with that. Yeah, I don't think it's the best thing. You need to have a lot of Mickeys and Minnies to really get the full value out of this, and you need them to challenge, right? Challenging is always a tougher way to gain lore, other than keeping your characters upright, because you need your opponent to also be exerted for you to challenge them. So it's not my favorite way, but I mean, it kind of fits with the Mickey. Just the both of them not being the best cards that we've seen so far. Next we have a 4-drop uninkable. It's action here, not a song. Glimmer versus Glimmer. I am digging the art right here with the Hades and Hercules doing a arm wrestle. I really like this art. That's really, really cool. Banish chosen character of yours to banish a chosen character. So that is really powerful. I'm thinking like with Prince Eric. If you banish Prince Eric, its effect is whenever he's banished, you can banish another character. And then this will banish another character, so you can banish 2 of your opponent's characters. If you banish like your rabbit, you get out of play, like a Merlin rabbit, you can draw a card and then banish another character. I think you can get tons of value out of this card, because you could attack with one of your characters, have them be exerted or have them quest so that they can't do anything anymore or have less hit points. Then play the Glimmer versus Glimmer, discard that character or banish them, and then you can banish another one of your opponent's characters. I wish this was inkable. If this was inkable, I mean, this would be like, I don't know, like an all including like every single Ruby deck. But I think making it uninkable is going to be a good balance for it. So still a solid card. One of my favorite cards I've seen so far. I still wish it was inkable, but this is a really cool card that fits really well with Ruby. Next we have a 3-drop uninkable. The Sword Release is an item here. Power appointed at the start of your next turn. If you have a character in play with more attack, so you have one character in play with more attack than each opposing character in play. Okay, so you have the highest attack character. Each opponent loses 1 lore and you gain lore equal to the lore lost. So the item will stay in play, and at the start of your turn, your opponent will lose 1 lore and then you gain 1 lore. Pretty much if you're playing 1v1, if you're playing with more players, then you get more benefit. But then you need to have a character higher than more players attack. There's more players having characters that might have higher attack than you. This works really well with Ruby, because Ruby has a lot of high attack characters, so I can definitely see this being a strong card over the duration of a game, especially if you are playing control with Ruby. You just have your strong character out, and then your opponent's like trying to quest, but you're getting a lore every single turn, and you're making them lose lore, which is pretty big. So I can see this as being a really strong card here. But it is uninkable, so you can't just put this in. You really have to, I think, build around this card to make it good. Okay, next we have a location here. It's a 3-drop inkable, and it has 8 life, which is really, really high. 3-drop is pretty cheap for a location with 8 life. 1 for the move cost, and it has 1 lore, which I really like here. So you can play on turn 3, you gain 1 lore a turn, and it's 8 life, so it's pretty tanky. Whenever a character is banished while here, you may draw a card. Okay, wow, okay, so it's cool that you can do it during your opponent's turn and during your turn. And you can move your characters here and then have them die, so you can draw a card whenever they get banished. This is a really strong location. I don't think it's Queen's Castle level, because you have to get your characters banished. But, I mean, no, this effect is really, really good. It's one step further than a Queen's Castle, because Queen's Castle is whenever you have a character here at the start of your turn. But if you play the library, you can actually get the card draw right away if you move a character here that you already have in play and have the character attack and then get banished. And then with this deck here, especially with like the cards we saw like Glimmer versus Glimmer, you can move a character to the library, play the Glimmer versus Glimmer, banish your character, you draw a card, and you banish your opponent's character as well. So that's a really cool combo here. This deck is looking out to be really powerful so far, and I really like this location a lot. It's really good. This might be like a runner-up for the second best location in the game, right after Queen's Castle. Next we have a 6-drop inkable here. The Knock Mythical Spirit, I think it's from Frozen. The horse, it's a 5/5 for 6, so not the best stat line with 1 lore. Okay, hopefully that's a good effect. Turning Tides, when you play this character, you may move up to 2 damage counters from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So you can heal a little bit of one of your characters, not necessarily healing, but just moving the damage. Not my favorite card. I think that you have to really build around to make it good. The good thing is that it's inkable, but it's very expensive for not that good of a style and a little bit of a lackluster effect. So definitely not one of the better cards in my opinion in this deck. But still decent though, not a terrible card. Next we have Archimedes, Exasperated Owl, 3-drop inkable, 2/2 with evasive. Okay, and then that's not the best, but he has 2 quests here. So having the 2 lore with evasive I think is really good. 2/2 is not a good stat line for being a 3 drop, but he might be able to just quest every single turn and survive with the evasive here. So he's a decent card. No effect really, but a decent card. Then we have a 4-drop inkable. Bruni, we got the Fire Salamander from Frozen 2. 2/2, so terrible stats, but he has 2 lore as well, and the evasive that we talked about as well, which is great. When he's banished, you can draw a card. Okay, so we compare him to Merlin Rabbit here. They're the same cost. Merlin is 2/3, this guy is 2/2, but he has the evasive and can quest for 2. And then Merlin Rabbit's when he enters play and leaves play, you can draw a card. But this is inkable. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is definitely going to be a really good card. The fact that it's inkable here, so you can always ink it if you need to. When you play him, the thing that's going to hurt the most with this card is if it gets bounced back to your hand with like Emerald players, right? They might choose one of your characters and put it back to your hand, because you have to play it back down again for 4, and then you have to wait for ink to dry. For the Merlin Rabbit, you can draw a card when it leaves play. You need him to get banished here, right? This actually has a lot of synergy with the library location that we saw earlier. When we move him here and he gets banished, you can draw a card with the library's effect, and you can also draw another card with Bruni's effect. So very cool card. There's a lot of cool synergies in the star deck that I think are going to be very powerful. Next we have a 4-drop inkable, Earth Giant, Living Mountain. He has 4 attack, 5 life. When you play his character, each opponent draws a card. Okay, so he has a negative effect here. Well, it could be good if you really like playing around it, but I think for this deck, with the Amethyst Ruby, it's not a good effect. So your opponent draws a card that's pretty valuable, but you get a 4/4/5 with 2 lore. I don't like this card at all. I think I'm going to ink this card if I'm playing the star deck. I don't want my opponent to draw a card to get out this type of stat line here. Maybe it was something crazy like, I don't know, 7/7 or something like that, then that'd be better. But yeah, not my favorite card. Next, I have a 3-drop inkable here. We have Gale, the Wind Spirit from Frozen 2. So we have 1 attack, 2 willpower. When this character is banished and a challenge returns a card to your hand. Okay, so it's like Hey Hey, except it's 3-drop. It's inkable, which is really nice. Quest for 2. So you play this. So Hey Hey, usually you want to challenge because Hey has 2 attack. I think with Gale, I don't want to be challenging too much with it. I want to really just be questing and have the opponent attack me so I can return it back to my hand. It's going to be decent because returning it back to your hand is effectively getting you a card draw because you can ink the Gale. So not a terrible card. I don't think it has that much synergy with this deck though, when it's banished in a challenge, because the other stuff with the library and stuff, you may want to run these characters into your opponent's characters, and with 1 attack, it's not that good. Yeah, it's just the synergies here. So I think usually you want Gale to be attacked or be challenged, and then you get it back to your hand. But not a bad card for sure. Next we have Anna, Mystical Majesty. She's a Floodborn here. I think this is the first Floodborn Anna that we've ever seen in the game. 7-drop uninkable, so very expensive and it can't be inked. 4/5, not the best stat line for a 7-drop, but she has an effect called Exceptional Power. When you play this character, exert all opposing characters, and she quests for 2. So, okay, quest for 2 is really good. When you play this character, exert all opposing characters. So she has like an Elsa type of effect here. I don't know why, because she's not really freezing, right? But this kind of plays off this set 1 Anna that's 4-drop inkable, while being able to keep an exerted character exerted for another turn. When you play, you can exert all. So that could be really powerful, but I feel like this card is going to be rough because it's uninkable, and you only run and play when you have a lot of characters that can attack, because when you exert all your opposing characters, they can ready up when your opponent has their next turn, right? So you need to be able to attack them right away. So you need other stuff in play to really make this work. But it's not just enter play, and exerting all your opponent's characters, I think, is really powerful. So it can be one of the best effects in the game, but it can also be a little bit lackluster if you don't have other stuff to support with it. Next, we have a 5-drop inkable Archimedes. He is the Floodborn one, so you can shift onto the other one. 1 attack, 4 life. This is a terrible stat line. Shift 3 with evasive, and then challenger 3. So when he challenges, he gets +3. So 5 for 4/4. Um, Quest for 2 with evasive. I mean, I think he's okay. I think he's nothing crazy, but I think he's a solid card. Um, yeah, I would wish that he has. I don't know. I think even if he was 5-4-4 with evasive in Quest 2, that would be pretty balanced still. And yeah, I would prefer that a lot more. So I'm not the biggest fan of this card, but I think it can be good. Okay, next we got the box art Elsa here, the fifth spirit. She's a 5-drop Inkable, 2 attack, 5 life, so not a great stat line. But I've seen this card before because she was like one of the first ones that was reviewed. She has Rush, Evasive, and then Crystallize when you play this character, exert chosen opposing character. That is bonkers. I think this card is amazing. And it's crazy because you play her, you can exert one of your opponent's characters, and hopefully it's an evasive character that's been like, a pain in your butt. Most evasive characters have less attack and less willpower, so maybe they have like 2 willpower, and then she can immediately rush into a character that she exerted herself. This also is really, really good, and it's inkable, so if you don't need her effect, you can just ink her. I really, really like this card. I think it's a super strong card. And then we have Olaf. Oh my goodness. Okay, he's a 9-drop uninkable. This is a big Olaf here, and he's on Marshmallow, which is crazy. 6/6. Okay, that's not a good sign for being 9 though. Happy Passenger. Clear the path for each exerted character opponents have in play. You pay 1 less to play this character, and then with evasive and 3 lore. Okay, evasive is huge. 3 lore is huge. I think this effect is hard to get out. So it depends what type of deck your opponent plays. If they play like something where they're going wide and they're swarming the field, then obviously it's gonna be really easy because you can play like the Ana that we looked at earlier, right? Which can exert all your opponent's characters, and then you may be able to get Olaf in for cheap. I mean, 1 less. So like, what if your opponent has 5 characters, you exert all of them, then this Olaf will be 4-drop. If you play the Ana, that's 7. You play this Olaf, that'll be 4, and Olaf can attack that turn it's played. And then that's like the best case scenario for it, right? Because I don't think your opponent's gonna ever have 9 characters out, and then yeah, I mean, I like the evasive, I like the 3 quests, but I think this is actually gonna be a bad card. Even in its best case scenario, I don't think it's a good card. Being uninkable, I don't know why all the marshmallows are uninkable. It's a little bit unfortunate, but yeah, it's a lackluster stat line, and I think most of the time you won't be able to get the effect off in the best way. So I'm not a fan of this card. So I have a 2-drop Maleficent, it's inkable, 2/2. So not a good silent for a 2-drop, but 2 lore here. I like the 1-drop one more that's uninkable with the 2 lore. I just think that having 2 lore for a 1-drop is way bigger than having that for a 2-drop. Because most of the time you don't want to ink that 1-drop Maleficent because you're playing an aggro style deck. But if you're playing this one in aggro, I mean 2-drop to get you 2 lore. Still a solid card with the 2 quests and being inkable, but I like the 1-drop uninkable Maleficent a little bit more. Okay, we got another Ana here. It's a 3-drop uninkable. She's the Eager Acolyte. 1/3, which is not a good stat line for being 3-drop, but she has an effect when you play this character, each opponent chooses and exerts one of their ready characters. So they pick one of their ready characters and they have to choose and exert one of them. So it's kind of like a Layerman, but then your opponent chooses which one they exert. Um, it's kind of like a Pinocchio. It's a Pinocchio you can choose, but this will bypass Ward, right? So if your opponent has 1 character in play and has Ward, then you can play it to get rid of it. I think it's situational at best. I think that with Bucky being eroded, the Ward thing isn't going to be as much as a problem because Bucky is like the real main Ward culprit that was very difficult to get rid of. So, I mean, this can be good in a correct situation. I think that it's a little bit too niche for me to really rate as very good. We got a 4-drop Inkable here, King of Hearts, 1 attack, 4 life. Pleasing the Queen, you can exert him, and you can chosen exerted character can't ready start their next turn. Also, a lot of exerting ready. I think in this deck, this Ana can be good here. I think there's a lot of good synergies with exerting your opponent's characters and then attacking them and banishing them and having your own characters get banished. So it's decent here with 2 quests. Next we have 2-drop Inkable Hypnotic Strength. It's an action, so no songs. We haven't seen any songs yet. Draw a card. Chosen character gains Challenger +2 this turn. Draw a card. Yeah, not my favorite card. I'm not a big fan of these cheap actions like this where you get a card back, but you have to spend 2 ink to play it. It could be good at real late game, but I think that early on it's not going to be the best thing because you got to spend all your ink to play it. Next we have a 5-drop Inkable Finder's Keepers, another action here. Draw 3 cards. Okay, is that good? So we have we have Friends on our side, which is a 3-drop inkable song. You can draw 2 cards. This would be 2 more ink to draw 1 more card. Friends is still better. I think Friends is still better. This can't be sung though. So the huge thing with Friends is that you can sing it, which means that you can keep all your ink to play other stuff with the cards that you drew. This you have to hard cast. Um, I mean, draw power is always gonna be good, but I think it's not as good as Friends on the other side for sure. So if you're running all 4 Friends, you may not even need to run this. I cannot think of a situation where it's like better than Friends, but I mean, card draw, I'm never gonna say that card draw is bad for sure. Okay, so next we have a 1-drop inkable Retrosphere as the item. Is spend 2 ink and you banish the item, so the item can't be recurred over and over again. Like you can't use it every single turn because it gets banished whenever you use it. Return chosen character, item, or location with cost 3 or less to their player's hand. Okay, so you gotta, I mean, it's cheap to play. You gotta spend 2 ink though to use it, and then you can return it. So you can return your opponent's or your own stuff. It would be really cool if it didn't have the 3 cost limit, because then you could return like your own like Merlin Goat or Merlin Rabbit if it was like 4 cost or less. I mean, if it was even more than that, then you can return like a really expensive card of your opponent's back to their hand, which could set them back a bit. This isn't terrible because it's going to help a lot with controlling, because your opponent can quest for the win. You can Retrosphere them if you play this down early and return like a character that they can quest with back to your hand to stall them for another turn, because when they play that character back down again, their ink will have to dry. So I can see a use for this card. Not my favorite though. Okay, so we're moving on to the Steel Emerald deck here, I believe, because we have a Steel card here, which we can't use with the Ruby Amethyst deck. So we have a 4-drop Royal Guard here. I think this is from the Emperor's New Groove movie. He has 1 attack, 7 life, so crazy life for 4. 1 attack is really low, no effect, and just 1 lore. Yeah, I think in the correct deck he can be good. 7 life can be really valuable. If you have such a buff as attack, he can be really good as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe in like a heavy questing deck, even, and just have you quest every single turn with him, because he's hard to take out. I mean, no, you can just brawl him though. So like, because the 1 life, so brawl would banish your chosen character with 2 attack or less, right? So his 1 attack. Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a good card. Next we have the 2-drop inkable Sleepy Sluggish Knight with Bodyguard, 0/4. Okay, his bodyguard, so he will protect other characters. I don't like this card at all. It's 2-drop inkable. So I mean, inkable is nice. 2 drop is really cheap, but 4 life is really high. But having only 1 attack means that you can just run your characters into him and then he'll just get defeated. The bodyguard, it's nice to protect other characters, but he doesn't do damage back, which I'm not the biggest fan of. So far I am not liking these Steel cards. 2-drop inkable, 1/4 is a Kronk here, and his challenger 1. So he's really cheap. 2-drop, 1/4 with challenger 1, so he could be 2/4 at 2-drop, which is really good. 1/4 is decent, but I mean, he has a problem of the being a 1-drop here, right? So like the baby Sisu, that banishes the character 1 attack or less, can just banish him right away. You can play a brawl again. I think it's better than Sleepy. Still not my favorite card so far. So far there's a lot of willpower in these cards. I wonder if there will be some synergy with the willpower. The only problem with having high willpower in a deck with that archetype is that Ruby has so many cards like Brawl or the Sisu that can banish characters with a certain amount of attack and under, right? Like Madame Medusa as well, right? So if you invest a lot in these characters, they can easily get banished by Ruby no matter how much willpower they have. 5-drop inkable. We have a Hey here. Protective Rooster, 4/5 with Bodyguard. Okay, I think he's pretty solid here. 5/4/5 is not the best, but he has Bodyguard and 2 quests, so I think he's a really good card. I'm the biggest fan of the Hay so far of all the cards we've seen for Steel. Next we have a 4-drop uninkable Isma. She's 1/4. Okay, so that 1/4 stat line again. During your turn, whenever one of your characters banishes a character in challenge, you may do 1 damage to chosen character. Not my favorite effect. Just you need too many things going on. You need to have another character, because it can't be whenever she banishes a character in challenge. You can do 1 extra damage to another character. That's a little bit of a lackluster effect. She does quest for 2, which is nice, but everything else is not my favorite. Not a fan of the Steel cards here. Okay, this is the Kronk that's on the box art of the star deck. So 7-drop uninkable. I don't like that it's uninkable. 6/6, shift 5, and then are you on the list? So his His baby version was a 2-drop, so shift 5 is just a good efficiency, not anything crazy good like the Tafida, because you can actually get a cost reduction whenever you're shifting her. But yeah, Kronk is just going to be efficient here. Are you on the list during your turn? Whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may play a character with cost 5 or less for free. So whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may play a character with cost 5 or less for free. Okay, that's a really good card. I think this is a really, really good card. This is the best steel card that we've seen so far. If you can ready him and have him attack again to banish another character in the challenge in the single turn, like with the Sheet Reverse or something like that, you can just constantly play out characters with cost 5 or less for free. I mean, the fact that he has to banish another character in the challenge, that is a hard task, right? But he's 6'6", so he has the time to do it. It's just that you need your opponents to have exerted characters. And I think that this deck is not going to have the exerting power of the Ruby Amethyst deck that we saw earlier, where they can exert a lot of your opponent's characters. But being able to play a character with cost 5 or less for free, that is the opposite of a lackluster effect. That is an amazing effect there, and definitely going to be worth building around. I think this is a really good card. And so we have a 2-drop Inkable Arthur with 2/2 and 2 quests. So similar to a lot of the cards that we've seen so far from Ruby and Amethyst Star deck. Just a decent styling with decent questing. I mean, not a decent styling for being 2-drop, but because he has a double quest here, I think that's okay. I would really wish that he had 3 willpower, though. That would make him worthwhile. We have a 6-drop Inkable Simba Son of Mufasa. He has a shift. So 3/5 is not a good styling for being a 6 drop. When you play his character, you may banish chosen item or location. So he's kind of a good tech card, I guess. What's cool is that there's a Simba in Steel that's only 1 drop. So you can shift for him and play the Simba on turn 4 to banish an item or location, which can be very good. His stats are just so weak for this type of effect. I wish he had a better effect or just higher stats. Like, even if he was 6/5/5, and then when you play him, he has the same effect, I think that he would still be pretty balanced. So I think he's a little bit on the weaker side here. I just wish he had better stats here. We have a 3-drop Inkable Pete 3/3. So that is a good stat line here for a 3-drop. When you play his character, opponents can't play actions at the start of your next turn. That is not fair. When you play him, your opponents can't play actions to start next turn. So if you're running the board and you play him, you will keep running the board because your opponent can't play actions, and songs count as action as well. If you have like multiple versions of the Pete, you just play them every single turn, play 1 a turn. You can bounce them back too. You're playing with Amethyst with like the snake and the fox. He can be super duper good. This is a really powerful card. This one is maybe one of the best cards we've seen so far. I can definitely see him getting really abused here, and this might break the game a little bit. I am super scared of Pete here. Next we have 5-drop Inkable Tug of War's action, not a song. Choose one, you can do 1 damage to each opposing character without evasive, or choose to do 3 damage to each opposing character with evasive. So similar to Grab Your Swords, I like that it's Inkable, but it's not a song, so I'm not the biggest fan of that. Yeah, I mean, 3 damage to each opposing character with evasive is huge, but 1 to each one without evasive, I mean, it's a similar to a Tinkerbell effect. It's still a good effect. I think the 1 damage across the board is still going to be solid. This is a good card. I think Grab Your Swords is still going to be a little bit better because it's a song, even though the Grab Your Swords is not inkable. But this is definitely a solid card for a lot of people that don't have the Grab Your Swords, because as a lot of set 1 cards are hard to get. 3-drop inkable here. When will my life begin? And this is our first song that we've seen. I think this is the first song we've seen so far of both star decks, and the Ruby Amethyst has no songs. So chosen character can't challenge during their next turn. Draw a card. Okay, if this was not a song, it would be terrible, but because it's a song, you can just sing it. I think this is good for if you can sing it, right? Because you can draw a card, and then you can prevent one of your opponents from attacking you. If you have to hard cast it, you're not getting as much value out of it, I think, but if you can sing this, I think it's huge. Chosen character can't challenge. Yeah, so even if they're right up, they just can't challenge, but they can still quest, which is a little bit unfortunate, but you can just protect your characters, right? It's a little bit of a bodyguard effect. Next we have a 1-drop Uninkable Food Fight. So it's action here. Your characters gain, they can exert, and you can spend ink to deal 1 damage to a chosen character this turn. It's action here, so only for that turn. Not the biggest fan of this because, I mean, it works if you have a bunch of characters and you need to do a lot, but you gotta spend ink for each one. So it's kind of this is like, at minimum, it's gonna be 2 ink to do 1 damage to a chosen character, and you have to exert one of your characters. I think this is a terrible card. I like Fire the Cannons a lot more. This card is not my favorite at all. Next we have the symbol looks really cool. 3-drop Inkable, Lost Prince, he's Storyborn, 2/4. So a little bit under the curve here for the stat line. Face the pass during your turn. Whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may draw a card. So a lot of symbols have this type of effect. When you banish another character in a challenge, you may draw a card. Um, he's okay. I like that he's inkable, but his stats aren't that good for him to be banishing a lot of characters in a challenge. Not my favorite card. Yeah. Next we have a 1-drop here, 2/2. So just a super standard 1-drop, 2/2. So a standard stat line here with 1 quest. Nothing else to say about him. There's a lot of cards like him. We're getting more versions though. I think that Steel already has this in I think the Goons or something like that. So we're getting another one with Rudy, which is surprising to have another Steel with the 1/2/2. Well, we got a location here. So it's a 3-drop Inkable. 1 is the move cost, 6 life. Okay. Opposing damage characters gain Reckless. Oh, so you damage them, they must challenge and then they can't quest anymore? That's not bad. Except they can challenge the Tropical Rainforest and just take it out, even if they have Reckless. The 1 lore here is nice. I like how a lot of the newer locations right now are having this 1 lore. That makes them a lot more worthwhile and a bigger threat than if they didn't have that. So I don't think it's a terrible location. Definitely still one of the better locations here too, just because it has that 1 lore. And it's inkable. So we have a 9-drop uninkable Robin Hood here. He has 4 lore, which is crazy high. 6/6 is not a good stat line though, but it makes sense for 4 lore. For each 1 damage on opposing characters, you pay 1 less to play him. Okay, so I think this is going to synergize a lot with the Tug of War, and so will this, because this will give them Reckless there, so they can't quest. If you play a Tug of War, you damage all those characters. You play a Robin Hood for really cheap. But once again, your opponents need to commit to the board and play a lot if you are running this type of deck, right? So if you're playing against an opponent that doesn't swarm the field that much, then this card is going to be very difficult. Same with the Tug of War, they're not going to be that good. The War is really nice on him as well. I think what's cool that we're seeing in this starter deck is that it's giving Emerald a way to, it'll make me, if I'm facing Emerald, I guess, feel a little bit scared and hesitant to swarm the field, right? If I'm facing Ruby, I am super duper scared to swarm the field because of the Be Prepared. But if I'm facing Emerald, I'm usually like super fine with that. I was just like, okay, let me swarm. But now, because of a lot of these cards like Robin Hood, I don't want to commit to the board as much because they can get them down for super duper cheap. And there's a lot of other synergies here as well with like the Tropical Rainforest. Yeah, so I think that it's cool that Emerald's getting that making your opponent hesitate to commit to the feud. Okay, we got Scar's Accomplice here, Shenzi, 3-drop Inkable, 2/3. So not the best stat line, but it's evasive, so I think that's fair. That's a regular stat line for being evasive. While challenging a damaged character, he gets +2 attack. I don't think that's the best effect, because if the characters are damaged, they're probably already weakened. Maybe they don't have that much willpower left. Getting +2 attack there, I mean, it's okay. Not my favorite card, but evasive is always nice. We got a 1-drop Inkable, Little John here, 0/4. A lot of willpower, but no attack, which I think is balanced out. 1 quest. I mean, I think he's decent. I think in the correct deck, he can be very good. Yeah, being a 1-drop 0/4, I really don't like the 0 attack there, but he can be used. I don't think he's the worst card in the game. We have a 5-drop Inkable here, Zazu, 3/5 with evasive and quest for 2. Okay, just your standard type of card. He's not terrible, not anything great, I think, with everything that we've seen so far. Having 2 lore for evasive is always going to be solid, though, so I do think he's a decent card. We have a 4-drop Inkable. We have Oath the Mime, 4/3. This character can't exert to sing songs, so it has a negative effect. That's fine, though. I mean, and it has 2 lore, so I think that's why it's not 4/4. It's a little bit of a weaker stat line to have the extra lore. And the negative effect, I feel like it could have been 4/4 for this, but I think that's fine. Yeah, I mean, he has the +2 lore. It's not my favorite card, but I think it's okay. Then we have a 3-drop Uninkable. We have Ed here, 2/3. So not a good sign for being a 3-drop, and he's uninkable. So it maybe has a really good effect. When you play him, you can do 2 damage to chosen damage character. Okay, so it's really working off the already damaged characters. You can do more damage to them, and giving Emerald a way to do direct damage here. This is not a bad entry play effect. I just wish it was like do 2 damage to a character. That would be crazy good. But chosen damage character is not going to be as good because it's a little more situational. But you have stuff like the Tug of War that we saw earlier to do 1 damage to all your opponent's characters. And you can do 2 more with Ed. So he can be good. Next we have a 2-drop Inkable Robin Hood, 2/2. Not a good sign for being a 2-drop. When you play this character, if an opponent has a damage character in play, gain 1 lore. Okay, so it have any damage character, so it's not like for each one you gain a lore. So you can max just get 1 lore. I think it's not that good because I think in this style of damage characters, I don't think that you're playing super aggro. Because you need to spend time to play like Tug of War to damage all your opponent's characters, which takes at least like turn 5, right? So yeah, I think if in a more aggro deck, this could be really good, but because you take more time to damage all the characters, and then you have to play this card. So I think it's just one step too much. So I'm not the biggest fan of this card. You just have a 4-drop Uninkable, 2/4. Damage characters can't challenge his character. Okay, so you can keep him safe here, and he quests for 3. So this effect is really good synergy with having the 3 quest here. You can prevent all your opponents from challenging him by playing like a Tug of War or something like that. That could be really, really powerful. That's a really nasty effect, but he's uninkable. I think it's a pretty balanced card, but definitely solid. Okay, so next we have a 2-drop inkable Banzai. 2/2, so not a good sound for being a 2-drop. Here, Kitty 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 is the effect. Whenever you play this character, you may exert chosen damage character. Okay, I mean, it's not that it's inkable here, but not the best effect because they have to be damaged. But in this deck, I think there are a lot of ways for you to play around that. But exerting them is not going to be as good as being able to maybe do direct damage to them, right? Like the other cards that we saw earlier. So not a bad card because it's inkable. It's not my favorite though. Next we have a 5-drop inkable Robin Hood, and he is Floodborn here, so we can't shift him. He's a 3/5, shift 3. This character gets +1 lore for each opposing damage character in play. Okay, so if you can play like the Tug of War, and your opponent has like 5 characters, I mean Robin Hood would have like 6 lore, which is crazy, and you can shift onto him and have him quest immediately. So I'm just not the biggest fan of this playstyle, and I mean, definitely I could be missing something. Please let me know, down in the comments if you guys see something that I'm not seeing. But I feel like this type of deck can run really well if you're playing against an opponent that's really going wide and playing a lot of characters, right? But if you're playing someone that's like, just playing 1 or 2 characters, not really committing to the board, then I mean, this deck is not going to be as good because you just won't be able to have that many characters to damage. And then like if your opponent is playing something with like very few characters, like with the focus on songs or actions, then this deck is gonna be like almost not even viable. Like a lot of these cards won't work at all. So I mean, I think it can be really fun and powerful, but I just feel like it's not super versatile because of limitations on who you're facing, right? If your opponent does not have a lot of characters, then it's not going to be as viable. A lot of these cards from this Steel Emerald deck. Next we have a 5-drop Inkable Shenzi, 3/6. This character gets +1 attack for each other hyena character you have in play, so it could get more attack. Whenever one of your hyena characters challenges a damage character, gain 2 lore. Okay, that is pretty cool. To gain 2 lore each time your hyena character challenges a damage character. I have a problem. It's like a lot of the stuff to me just takes so much setup, right? You need to have hyenas in play, and then they have to attack a damage character. You need so many things set up, right? You need to damage. You need them, your opponents to be exerted. You must challenge them, and then you can gain 2 lore. Yeah, you can do definitely massive benefits if it's like a huge swarm and gain like 10 lore a turn, but that takes just a lot of setup there, and I think that your opponent can find a way to mitigate that. So these aren't my favorite cards, but I can definitely see a high payout if we can get it set up. Next we have a 4-drop Inkable. This is a Scar here from the box art of the Star deck. 4/2, so really high attack, really low willpower. The same stat line as like the first set Ruby Gaston, who has Reckless, but that Gaston is 2-drop Inkable. He's 4-drop, which is really expensive. Ward, so he can prevent your opponent from killing him. Okay, it's not terrible, but if you play a Grab Your Swords, it would just knock him out because it's going to bypass the ward. Life's Not Fair, is it? Whenever one of your characters challenges a damage character, you may draw a card. Yeah, so it's kind of like the same thing, right? You need to have him in play, and then whenever one of your characters challenges a damage character, so you need to have a damage character on your opponent's side. That's Exert as well, and you can challenge them and you can draw a card. It's really nice if you get a bunch of card draw, but not going to be that useful if you can't get all the other stuff set up. So, I mean, the good thing is this deck does work around setting that up, but once again, if your opponent does not have that many characters, then you won't be able to get as much benefit for all that setup. We have a 2-drop Inkable action here, Hypnotic Deduction. Draw 3, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your deck in any order. So I mean, that's a nice card. You play as action for 2. You draw 3, so you draw 1 card, but you can choose which one you want. Put the other 2 on top of your deck, so you know what's coming up. It's not terrible. If your opponent does something to force you to shuffle your deck, then it's like really bad because then you're just drawing 1 card. And you could just draw it by drawing this card anyway, so you gotta spend ink. I'm not the biggest fan of cards like this, but I can definitely see them being good. They're just not my cup of tea. Next, we have a 3-drop Inkable Night Howler Rage as an action. Draw a card. Chosen character gains Reckless during their next turn. I wish that this was a song, but yeah, I mean, I can see it being okay to give them the Reckless there, and they'll have to attack you if you have like a bodyguard or something like that. And you get a card draw out of it to mitigate a little bit of its cost. Still not the biggest fan, but I think it's okay. Okay, and that is it. All right, that is all the cards here from both the star decks. That was a lot. Okay, I do really want to say really quickly, this is just my opinion. I don't think that I'm like an authority or anything on the game. I was just sharing my first thoughts. I could be entirely wrong. If you guys think that I'm missing, like a big point about any of these cards, please let me know down in the comments below. But from what I've seen so far, I think that this Amethyst Ruby deck right here is crazy bonkers good. I mean, I won't know until like I play it or actually like have the cards and use them. But this right here I think is the best star deck that we've ever seen in Lorcana so far. It's so powerful being able to exert so many of your opponent's characters and attacking them, and then gaining so much lore as well. I think this is a really, really powerful deck that's gonna be super duper fun to play too. I think it's just super duper fun to attack a lot, to exert a lot, and have different ways to gain lore. For the Emerald Stew deck, I am not nearly as big on this deck as I am with the Ruby Amethyst. This deck, I don't know. The thing with the damage characters, I just think it takes too long to set up. But I think that if you can get this deck going, it can be super duper high value, super duper powerful. But you just need to play against the correct matchup and get it set up. I think it's gonna be the biggest thing with this deck. So it's gonna be more situational. But this Ruby Amethyst deck, I think is, yeah, I think it's the best star deck in the entire game of Lorcana. And I like how there's some removal in there as well with the Glimmer versus Glimmer. That's one of my favorite cards in this set as well, in addition to Elsa. So much cool synergies. The location is really good as well. This deck, I think is really good. So yeah, that's going to be my first look, my first thoughts at these 2-star decks of the set 5 Shimmering Skies. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and just share your opinion with me. Let me know what I'm missing, and let me know if there's anything that you guys agree with. I'll see you guys in the next video.